Hey guys, welcome to another episode of AI Conversations. And today I'm happy to be joined by Mr. Gio Tiongson, CEO, founder of Anycase. But I'll leave it to Gio to introduce himself and the wonderful work they're doing. Welcome to the show, Gio.
Thank you, Doc. It's great. This is a few weeks in the making, and I'm glad we were able to schedule the episode.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so quick introduction. I'm Gio Tiongson, the CEO and co-founder of Anycase AI. We are building an AI-powered tools, or we're building AI-powered tools for the Philippine legal industry. And it's starting with a legal research web app for lawyers, law students, and really anyone who needs to understand Philippine laws and jurisprudence more. So this is a tool that's already available currently for free, but we're launching our paid tiers soon, this next week actually. So but siguro by the time this video airs, we already have the paid tiers. But yeah, so that's me. Happy to be here, though.
Yeah, thanks. And well, apologies in advance. My throat isn't cooperating with me today. Yeah, but sige, let's get to it, no. So, any case, what's it all about, and how did the journey start for you?
Sure. So any case was siguro backtrack in it ties in with like my startup journey then somewhat. So when I was starting in working as a product manager and like a growth practitioner in the startup space, this is around the time that my close friends were in law school. Um, so like just to paint a picture, yung three of my groomsmen recently, they're all lawyers. And so around that time, they were always telling me how ang dami nilang binabasa. Like as a law student, like you have to read mountains of books. This is around 2016, 2017. So I'd say for me personally, yung awareness of law, what's happening in particularly law school and what future lawyers have to go through, then ako na start ma-prime on what was happening. So I have a keen interest on like technology. So AI definitely with the recent of AI, I'm very curious to understand what's happening, what available tools there are. Um, so last year, mm, when GPT was really it unlocked or it opened everyone's eyes to the possibilities of AI. Um, yung una kong napuntahan talaga na thought is like, wow, the technology of large language models, as the name suggests, can handle mountains of data in the form of text. Like, whereas before, ano na, like data naman, there are ways to handle data. Pero it's in the like text, like in text format,
Unstructured data. Yeah.
unstructured data. So my co-founder was or is into AI. He's been into AI since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
That's also around the time na I saw my friends na law students kind of talking about what they were going through. The person who became my co-founder now, he was already studying AI back in 2017, 2018. So we were already talking about like AI in general. Wala pang GPT na to. I think the innovations back then were like BERT, and how he was telling me about how BERT innovation led to better translation, I think, something like that. Anyway, so fast forward back to last year. Um, we were exploring ideas on how to use AI, or just bouncing ideas because we're both into technology. He's the AI engineer talaga. I'm more on the business side, the product manager side. We were bouncing ideas, and like law kept coming up.
Mm.
So yun, sakto. The one of the friends that I mentioned before, one of my groomsmen, I there was a chance like dinner and hangout na naging kaming dalawa lang at his place. And then so I brought it up. I prodded as like a pseudo user researcher myself in a previous life. I asked him about like his everyday workflow as a lawyer. So he's currently now a lawyer, a litigator, and like he has experience with corporate law. Then he was telling me that lawyers generally, yeah, there are different tools available, but a lot of lawyers still use Google.
Mm.
Google for legal research, as in if they have a client that has a legal matter, they'll go on Google and then use that as a starting point for their legal research. And so yun pa lang parang when he mentioned that parang it made it click na wait, like lawyers are still using Google for their legal research. There's something there. Like walang dedicated application or meron dedicated applications, but they would still opt to use Google. And so putting one and two together, like okay, there's this new technology, LLMs is rising or is unlocking new capabilities. My co-founder, my other co-founder, si Beato, he's like well versed as an AI engineer. He has experience with like NLP, search engines.
Yeah.
We have this my other co-founder, also named Gio Bilo, who's a
The
lawyer, who's a
Geos of the
practicing lawyer.
world.
Yeah. So we came together. We talked through like okay, is there something here? We built out the prototype. We released that in August. And yeah, so that was the origin story of Anycase AI. So there's still a long way to go, but we have a working product and yeah, we're seeing some good reception so far from initial users.
Yeah, I wonder if you're at liberty to share. No, you don't have to share any trade secrets. But when you were setting it up, what were the key challenges that you sought to overcome? No, both on the technology and maybe the market side, because obviously this is now the rage. No, getting all of
Mm-mm.
these co-pilots and assistants that are fit for purpose as opposed to general co-pilots and general assistants. Ano yung ano mo? What did you guys encounter?
Sure. So I'll start with kind of the user pain point uh, that we were focusing on, and that was we started by choosing like jurisprudence as like the corpus for the data. So there are I think more than 60,000 uh, cases that were decided on by the Supreme Court. So these are available online through their platform, through the Supreme Court platform. And the pain point that we were trying to address is for the lawyer doing legal research for their client, quickly finding what they need, quickly finding that relevant case law that they can reference and that they can use in their arguments, their pleadings. So that's like the pain point that we saw, and the what lawyers were doing, as I mentioned earlier, was they would use something like Google, which like they would search something and then uh like there are free websites that have jurisprudence or case law posted. So they would use Google, but that's limited because with Google you have other results. You have like Lawfil, and you have Chan Robles. You have other websites uh, uh, who have like similar keywords. Some lawyers would use other tools that had a keyword-based search, meaning to search for what you needed, you had to use exact wordings or the exact phrase or the exact words. And if you don't put the right operator or if you don't put the right word, then you won't find what you're looking for. So that was the pain point that we wanted to address.
Mhm.
And so
It's a
yeah,
pain
so
point
yeah,
for a specific group of people, right? So it's a pain point for lawyers,
it's a pain point for lawyers.
maybe
Yeah, you're right.
paralegals, researchers.
Yeah. So specifically our really the first target person is or was litigators or a litigation lawyer.
Mhm.
So usually in the context of a law firm, this would be the associate. So in the law firm you have the associate, senior associate, senior partner, then partner, general partner. So
Mhm.
usually it's the associates doing the legal research. He is that. He is an associate in a law firm. He does legal research. So yeah, we were essentially just fulfilling his needs. What do you need in a legal research team?
You know, if we, I mean, I'm just reflecting on it now. I wonder how it it became counterintuitive. Because over time, laws get bloated and bigger and bigger. Yeah, at some point, it really becomes impossible not to navigate, and and you gotta wonder, you gotta pity the lawyers of maybe 20 years from now, how much jurisprudence they have to ingest. So it's really timely. I don't know if it occurred to people long ago that solutions like this should have been done, no, even the pre-generative AI age, no. Okay, sige. So yeah, okay, cool. I think the idea of having an assistant that can help you navigate laws, in terms of the actual process, or you know, the nuances of getting into, let's say, Philippine law, I guess, no. Did you find any particular challenge initially, surprising, or something that you didn't realize na ay may ganyan palang problema, now we have to fix it?
Yeah. Mm, well, something that was surprising, positively surprising, was how all of the data was available online already or digitized.
Pala, no, it's there na. It's just hard
It's
to
there
find.
now. Yeah. So definitely, if the jurisprudence or the cases that the Supreme Court decided on, if they weren't available online, then we wouldn't have had anything to work with. But we did find, and I was happy to see that, okay, so meron naman pala, meron, like the Supreme Court itself, they've been uploading the decisions um, online, and you can download it. So that's, yeah, essentially what we use. We use like the official digital copies from the Supreme Court to for the corpus of Philippine case law.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that was positively surprising. Let me think if there were other like surprising problems that we came across. But yeah, that's the main thing.
I guess I'm almost obligated to ask, no, kasi you know how one of the typical objections to large language models is this thing called hallucinations, no? And obviously, hallucinations in general can be annoying. Pero a hallucination in a legal context, parang similar to medicine din,
Right.
is something that's probably, it probably scares the hell out of anyone who might
Yeah.
want to get into this. So, did you encounter that, or did you address that? And what are your thoughts on that, no, hallucination, while looking through cases?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you're right. I should have mentioned it earlier. But that was one other problem that did come up for sure, or that we wanted to address. So, um, the short story is we are solving the hallucination problem of these AI LLM models through uh, our RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So that's part of the techniques that we use at Anycase AI to solve for the hallucinations. The basic idea is, while the LLMs available right now that developers can use, while it's super magical, it can generate text and insights and all that. It is susceptible to hallucinations, or like uh, wrong information. What you can do to counter that is to feed it context, or to feed it the right information, so that when it answers, it doesn't just say the right answer, but it can cite the source information or the source data. So with Anycase, I want to, like, for the lawyers out there or anyone interested, if you try out Anycase, that's what you'll see. Whenever our AI generates an answer or information, it will base that answer on the information that we've fed it. So that's Philippine laws and jurisprudence, and
Mhm.
it'll cite the source as well. Like, that's part of the user experience.
Yeah.
Um,
If I
so
can interject there, no?
sure.
Because well, I don't know if you've had any legal subjects back in the day, but I remember because I took up finance and accounting, so we had a mandatory obligations and contracts law,
Mm,
and then
yeah,
credit transaction, mga commercial laws, and
yeah,
I remember there were these books that you would buy that are derived from the civil code, the
yeah,
revised penal code, and in a way the cases are already prescribed. Now if you're going to make an argument here, the typical cases, now, it always occurred to me back in the day that are these really the only cases? Siguro naman over time, there's like a new set of cases that could probably overturn this or
oh yeah,
kind of, update it. Kasi mangyayari, everything becomes sort of formulaic. I'm just putting myself in the shoes of the lawyers. They might be thinking completely differently about this. Pero, if you're, kunyari, I'm gonna mount a defense against this particular argument. Alam ko na okay, here are the cases. So, one potential of having a tool like this is a defense or an offense, no, in court could emerge from a totally different set of cases that your opponent may not even anticipate. Would that
yeah,
be a scenario that you think could happen?
yeah. Um, so I think that's there is a concept in legal technology and in case law that called shepherding or shepherdizing.
Hmm.
And it's exactly that there are cases where a more recent case law will overturn or change the interpretation of a case law that would have been useful in the past.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, today there is a case that was decided on a certain way. It's possible that tomorrow or in a future date, um,
Okay na.
the legal
Overturned.
doctrine, like yeah, it overturns the interpretation here, and then that becomes the new standard. So we definitely see that happening, wherein a lawyer will do legal research, and they're not just concerned about, or you can't just use any case, for example, from a case from 1970s, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it, but then if you don't know the how it evolves through time, if for example in 2023 there was a new case that changed or addressed or reinterpreted, the laws that were talked about in the past case, then you're in a bad position because yeah, exactly that the opposing party uh could have a better argument because you don't have that access to information. So the term shepherding or shepherdizing, it we don't have that as a feature yet. I don't think any legal research tool in the Philippines has it. Um, the Supreme Court, as far as I know, they're looking for to establish something like that in the Philippines. But the idea is, yeah, having a system or a tool that's able to kind of follow along a case and then determine how it evolves through time, how if something overturns it, basically.
Yeah, kasi if I can react to also that, no, compared in pre-gen AI, pre large language model era, all of these any tool, kunya ayan, mga Chan Robles, all that, these are websites, are basically just search engines.
Yeah,
And they operate on the basis of word match. No? Or
yeah,
maybe at the very least, if they're using page rank, yung ginagamit ng Google, it's but that means you have to, in a way, take the effort to link,
yeah,
pages together. Um, but that doesn't necessarily constitute a legal argument. Now, a large language model, in theory, could make that argument, but still perform like a search engine. So anyway,
yeah,
I have two directions I'm going here now. One direction is how much, or it's a good way to phrase it. How effective do you see large language models playing a role in kind of forming all of these legal, parang not just retrieving cases per se, but retrieving cases in a way that supports arguments. I think that's the breakthrough. And
mhm,
then parang ano, a tangent to that, which is probably the contentious point. How much of future cases
or arguments will probably be driven by a large language model na. So in a way, this is what some lawyers are worried about. Na if you have an AI that in a way could form a better legal argument with better evidence, you're just one click away from having a robo lawyer na, no? And of course there's so many ways to spin that. And anyway, sige, react ka muna lang. How do you think about that?
Yeah. So on the first point, I think large language models, yeah, are really super effective in uh it's like a recommendation system, or for one thing, that's how I see it, or one way I try to look at it right now, where if you're looking at a case, the large language model can like read through the whole case and then see or analyze what are the other cases that are related or that seem to be talking about the same thing. So whether it's the whole case that you're looking at, or like a part of the case that you're looking at, the large language model is very effective in looking at all the 60,000 other like documents available, and then seeing which are like related, or which is at least useful to the lawyer, so that, hey, you're looking at this case, maybe look at this other case that is related and see if it strengthens or weakens your argument. Um, so that's one way uh, that we're looking at what we're building with Anycase. It's not just like when you do legal research naman, it's not just to like one case that you're looking at. You have to look at other cases, and from different angles. It could be like one legal doctrine in one case, and then multiple legal doctrines in another case. Um, so it's definitely helpful, especially with large language models, with the context windows like becoming bigger, being able to ingest more of or a longer piece of text. Um, it becomes better at that. And so for the second point about like what lawyers are worried about and robo lawyers, we see it right now as we're focused on building the tools for the lawyers, or to help lawyers become better at their work. And we think that um it's lessening the tedious tasks that a lawyer would have to go through, which is uh searching for cases and then determining which ones are relevant. Um we're focusing on helping them find the cases faster, find the right paragraph in the case faster, so that it's less of the tedious work of opening multiple tabs and then skimming all of those cases one by one, and then determining which ones are relevant. Parang it's still that general flow that you have to go through like multiple cases, but you can do it in a shorter amount of time. And then that allows you as a lawyer, or we think that with with the help of technology, you can lessen the you can lessen the time for tedious tasks, and then use that time for like strategizing, client relations, or like reviewing the content that you saw with the help of AI, and then strengthening your arguments, ganyan. And maybe even like frees up your time para mas may work-life balance. Like, okay, I'm done with work today, because mas na lessen yung tedious tasks, then you can go about living. It's we like we don't know where AI is heading. That's one of the exciting but also scary things about like all these LLMs popping up, and the progress they're making in such a short amount of time. But I think the lawyer, unless something changes in Philippine law, there always has to be like a lawyer layer or a human layer to all these processes naman. And so I think as long as that doesn't change, as long as you need like legally you need or it's better for you to receive legal advice from an actual lawyer, then we see it as like lawyers just now have like a Photoshop. Parang if before artists had to do everything by hand, like ng Photoshop, it's kind of like that with lawyers now.
Yeah.
They have like a Photoshop that they can use.
Yeah, actually, the Photoshop analogy is good. But what do you think of the piano analogy or a musical analogy? Kasi
Oh,
I'll explain this. So,
sige.
kasi people were recently discussing in another forum about how authentic or how original work can be coming out of a large language model. This covers, art and copywriting. And one analogy that I'm favoring recently is the concept of musical instruments. Any musical instrument, any music is composed of a very finite scale. No, do,
Mhm.
re, mi, ganyan. And yet, the entire body of musical art is built on that finite scale. Ba? So the point I was trying to make is in music, they already knew long ago that every piece of original music is simply just a rehash of some chord progression. And sometimes, kaya nga nagkaka-mashups tsaka covers, di ba? You can take someone else's progression, do your own flair in it, and suddenly it's a new piece of music. So they've had that forever. It's because
Mhm.
we've had tools that could allow us to do that with sound. And then now with large language models, we potentially have the same tool but for text. So, my question to you would be, and this is contentious potentially, if you think about it, how much of legal jurisprudence is just a chord progression? No? In other words, the argumentation of what can we, yun pa nakakatawa dyan, well, it's not really funny, but food thought-provoking. There's knowing the law, and then there's also winning a case, which are sometimes mutually exclusive issues. No? Sometimes, even though you have all of the jurisprudence and the argumentation, you could lose a case, and that's why you have
Yeah.
appeals. But then the thing, and then zooming out, it may or may not even be a use case. How much of this can actually result in higher win rates for a lawyer, you know? And then you think to take it to the next level, how much of winning a case now depends on automation and, di ba, AI driven. So now it's basically competitive advantage, no? I'm not even
Yeah.
talking about eliminating the lawyer. It's now
Yeah.
going to be, oh, it's lawyers who have AI that will beat the lawyers who don't have AI. Do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah. Yeah, when we talk about it internally, we recognize definitely that it is a competitive advantage. And we like that it also levels the playing field, wherein you have a smaller law firm or a boutique law firm or just a smaller team with handling a client going up against bigger law firms, a client that can pay for more lawyers or a bigger like law firm. Um, we don't see it. It's not happening with our users right now, but we see the potential, or we see that uh, this tool really might already be or has the potential to help those with less money, basically, to pay for a big law firm to at least help win the case, or you have more intelligence behind you. You have the AI to help you do legal research, and that again take away some of the mundane tasks. You have more time with strategizing and like all the other tasks that lawyers have to go through with in the context of like a case that they're handling. Um and I think, like, we believe that it's inevitable. Like, AI is inevitable in a lot of different industries, and we think it's also inevitable in the legal space, precisely because we're dealing with a lot of text, and these LLMs are made to handle large language, like large bodies of text. So that's our perspective uh, on it, for sure. That these tools, it's just a tool, and if whether you're a big law firm using it, that's helpful for your operation. If you're a small law firm that's going to be helpful for your operation. Um, and I think it's only a matter of time really for more lawyers to see the value and see it as like a tool that has to be used in their practice. And it's not dissimilar from how things have progressed with other technologies that lawyers and the legal industry uses. Like there was a time where when email didn't exist for lawyers, and now it's like the de facto kind of communication like tool for lawyers. There was a time that Zoom meetings didn't exist, and then now you can meet with a client over Zoom. And lawyers, although yeah, maybe historically, the legal industry, as they should, are slow adopters to technology. They still adopt the technology nonetheless. And yeah, that's what we're building. We're seeing that as the future, and like we want to build the tools that will be used more so in the future.
I can't help but wonder, and feel free to react to this any way you want, no, because this could be good or bad, talking to a lawyer. And if the lawyers are watching, feel free to comment. I've always had this lingering thought, and this is something medicine also shares, that the incentives for these industries are not in the right places. I'll explain. For example, in medicine, hospitals generally stand to make more money if you never get well.
Yeah,
Diba? You keep paying them. In fact, they get more money the more people who are sick.
yeah,
So that's always been the big debate in the healthcare industry. Public health, which looks at prevention, and clinical health, which looks at treatment. And whether doctors care to admit that or not, some do, they're incentivized to just keep the patient barely
yeah,
barely
yeah,
well, no? And that, they probably don't intend that, I hope. Okay, so you transplant that to law. There's so much about the legal process that actually benefits from incentives wise, that benefits from inefficiency. You know,
yeah,
the
yeah,
longer your case takes, the more your lawyer gets to bill. Although there's the concept of a success fee, for example, a collection case. Collection cases tend to be expedient as a result. I said the sooner you get the money, the bigger the cut, as opposed to other cases which tend to drag on. Like I'm personally familiar with someone who had a case that had been lingering for 16 years, no?
yeah,
Uh, mga lawyers lang yung yumayaman sa ganun. And then now you introduce a tool that goes the other direction. Want to make it efficient, want to make it effective. So I'm wondering, this is me speculating, how much of this will actually feel like a threat, lalo na to big law firms who benefit more from billable hours, if
yeah,
ever, than actually succeeding in their cases. No? So it's more efficiency versus effectiveness, siguro.
yeah.
Any thoughts on that or how that might change things?
Sure. So one thing that I heard or learned, and I'm not sure what the split is for this, but I know that the bigger law firms in the Philippines definitely like do billable hours, or they charge by the hour. But there are other law firms that pay the employees, as long as you're not a partner, a fixed salary. So I think that's I'm not sure about the split, like how many percentages or how many percent of law firms do one way versus the other. But I think uh there's that context worth knowing about the Philippines, because I understand that in other countries it's like really billable hours is like the business model. But still there are still like there is still the concept of billable hours in the Philippines. And I think it's yeah, it should change, or with this new technology, other parts of the industry or the way things work might have to adjust. And one kind of potential I'm seeing with the new technology is like, could law firms in the future charge for a technology fee? So instead of
Yep.
purely staying with like billable hours, and you're dealing with a client. So I'm a law firm, I'm dealing with a client. Instead of just purely billable hours, maybe there's a fee for the AI technology. Like, oh yeah, we're using this, this new piece of technology, it's gonna cost you. So then it's good for the business, you're still getting revenue. The technology itself it's valuable, so it should be paid for, or there is a premium to using it. People are doing less tedious work, less tedious tasks because of the technology. So I think those are the kinds of things that's really going to be put into question, or people have to think about when it comes to like new technologies like this, no? And I think it's recognized in the Supreme Court also that there is a backlog of cases, and that's really a problem, that even on the government side they recognize that we have to speed things up, and that's why there's also a push on the government side for like digitization and all that. So I think it's going to come from different angles, whether it's like there's this new technology that we have to kind of like speed up or be more efficient. There's a push from the top about like, yeah, we have to digitize, and we have to like process these cases faster. So yeah, I think those are all happening at the same time, and definitely billable hours as a concept, as a business model, might be put into question in the coming years.
I want to make an unfair comparison, if you don't mind. Because I actually live in the Pasig Mandaluyong boundary,
Mm.
which is where TV5 is,
Right.
and that's where Rafi Tulfo does his show. And if you've ever been there, every morning there's a long line of people just waiting because they do it raffle style. You line
Yeah.
up, you give your complaint, and the producers basically look for probably the most clickbaity story. And
Yeah.
then you're brought into the studio, and then Rafi Tulfo dispenses his brand of, I don't know, social media justice, I guess.
Yeah.
Which actually has a, well, at least if you watch it, has pretty much a high rate of success, at least publishable, no?
Yeah.
And part of the charm, at least from my perspective, of pursuing that route is it's expedient. You talk to Boss Rafi, you get the justice you want on some of the most visceral issues, no? Relationships, marriages, collection, reputation, libel, dyan, no? Or a government complaint, action agad, no? Yun yung kanilang term, eh. Action agad. So that's what I'm saying about incentives and the way the legal system tends to work. And you mentioned the backlog. I'm not sure the incentives are there to reduce the backlog. Other
Mm.
than also there's a capacity problem also. There's not enough fiscals, not enough judges, not enough courtrooms, I think. Pero even then, talagang tambak yung mga cases. Some of them are rather mundane. Some of them just get rebooted and rescheduled again and again and again. Contrast that with, again, unfair comparison. Contrast that with Boss Rafi, which operates more like a marketing type setup where it's not the length of time you spend on an order, it's the number of orders you process. You see the
Mm.
difference in the ano.
Mm.
And he made enough money to run for senator and win. No, of course that's a different discussion altogether. Whereas you have another industry, I feel incentives play a big role, where inefficiency exists, and here's a solution. What you're proposing to eliminate that inefficiency, but I'm wondering if the incentives will be in the right place. No, that's an opinion, pala. I wasn't asking a question. Okay,
Yeah.
so the question I want to ask though is, if this tool is now out there publicly, how much of this could become like, if you're familiar with yung mga nagse-self-medicate, and the medical field is up in arms against this, no? Mga websites like WebMD, Mayo
Yeah.
Clinic, where you can literally look up your illness with some mixed results, if I might add, as opposed to just getting a proper diagnosis from a proper doctor. Pero ganun din yung challenge, either cost or expediency, or maybe there's a bit of shame. I don't want to go to the doctor to diagnose a wart I have on my butt. But
Yeah.
maybe WebMD can tell me that. So do you see also the public, uh, gravitating towards this tool and getting more enlightened about the law? That would that be a possible outcome, or would you rather restrict it to lawyers? I don't know how would that play out?
Yeah. we're we definitely started with lawyers in mind and building the tool for lawyers, and it's primarily like designed around lawyers right now, litigators. But I definitely see how it could be potentially useful to, the layman, regular consumers. And we see this because um we already see people asking for legal advice. Like I'm part of so many Facebook groups all about people asking for legal advice and advice on different matters. On Reddit, Facebook, we have people asking asking for legal advice. So I think that this could potentially be what we're building, or what we could build in the future could be potentially some form of alternative, but it's always gonna be like informational. Unless we put like a lawyer layer on top of like the output that the AI is presenting. It's really gonna be informational, and it's essentially like you can do some legal research on your own as a layman on Facebook. You can do it on Google, but what we would focus on, I think one thing that would never kind of leave our offering is like going back to the source. So if there is like a statement that the AI makes, it's always going to be based on like, okay, this is the Republic Act that this answer is based on, or this is based on like jurisprudence. So that in a sense, it's more like when you look for the information, or when you have this legal question, it's a starting point. You can ask the AI some questions, and you'll be presented with an answer that's backed by like Philippine laws, Philippine jurisprudence, and all that. Um, and like to share, we are seeing some non-lawyers signing up for Anycase, and asking all sorts of questions. So whether it's like a law student, or like an HR manager who has like a labor question, um, we are seeing those profiles. It's minority right now, and we're not like particularly building for those certain use cases. But those are signals to us that okay, there's something here. Maybe in the future this could be a different, or like a profile that we would cater to.
So in terms of maybe if we still have time to talk about a little bit about the nitty-gritty, uh, how is the data gathering like for something like this? I mean, obviously that's part of your intellectual property, your trade secret. Pero did you have to kind of clean up a lot of the data you found online, or were they pretty much reusable as is, and it's just about getting the models to think better about them?
Yeah, so the at least the data that we started with, it was there is processing happening, but we are lucky that at least jurisprudence, it's already available in text format, or I think maybe it was in HTML or something. But uh, it was clean in that way that we didn't have to do much on like the cleaning side of it. But there is a processing that happens when once it's in our database, the data. There is some processing that we do, which is part of our kind of trade secrets, uh of our technology, before the AI can like really use it or make it usable for our system, or for our AI outputs. Um, we are seeing that it's not always going to be that case where it like the data collection is super smooth. Because we do want to add other kinds of data, still legal, still in the legal space, but they're not necessarily in the text format already from the source. Usually, or that it's going to be a lot of PDFs. And when I say PDFs, these are like scanned copies of papers that's published online, but it's still like useful to the lawyer and the legal industry. And so that's where we're gonna uh, experience more of these kind of nitty-gritty problems when it comes to like the data. It's primarily because a lot of it right now, it's digital in a sense that it's available online, but it's in like PDFs that you have to do like OCR and stuff to make it useful. Um, yeah, but I mean the technology exists, OCR, so we're confident that we can do that.
Um, I'm assuming you have some early adopters already.
Yeah.
Any early feedback that you're getting that's been helpful, constructive? I mean, it would be interesting to see more and more people looking into this. And you're one of the first, if not the first, I'm actually talking to looking into the legal applications of large language models.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're very happy. We have an early user base in the hundreds, at least in the hundreds of signups. I'll share specific numbers maybe later on, or I'll reveal it later on. But so we have signups in the hundreds, and we do have active users. So primarily these are lawyers and I think, yeah, legal researchers, law students, lawyers, and particularly like litigators. The feedback we're getting, it's positive. It's so we're seeing like if a lawyer uses Anycase, they will come back. Or let me clarify that if a certain lawyer in a certain practice uses Anycase, they'll come back. So that's litigation. Those who need like jurisprudence. Um, they find it easier to or simpler to find the cases that they want for their legal research. So we are achieving that. It's more efficient, it's faster. Um, they are looking for more data. So that's what we're working on. So currently we have Philippine laws, we have jurisprudence, then we have other ideas on what data they need. Because they're telling us, oh, like this would be useful in like corporate practice or like yeah, X, Y, and Z practice. So we're working to add those other data so that it becomes even more useful to these lawyers.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
yeah,
can imagine things like departmental orders in government, no, or executive
yeah,
orders would be helpful, especially if you're litigating on behalf of the government or against the government.
yeah,
Okay, that's cool. Sige, we still have time now. I hope you don't mind. Maybe I want to talk about future. What are you looking forward to? Any particular feature or sub product that's emerging as an interesting complement to your search engine, or and further refinements as it was.
yeah. Mm, yeah. So what we're excited about, um, yeah, it's really adding more data. From what we're hearing and seeing, from feedback and from our early users. It's the data that would be useful for us to do or focus on. So that's our so we're working on SEC. Like I can say that much. We're working on adding SEC data into our system so that yeah, essentially it's useful for corporations. You can ask like what you said, department orders from the SEC or issuances or opinions. Um, this opens us up to the corporate practice of law. Um, so that's what I'm excited about for Anycase. It's like with each new data source that we add, it makes it more useful to more people and more use cases. So very excited about that. We just on that thought of like features, we're currently like focused on like providing a search engine experience. So we don't do chat yet. We're really thinking about how to implement a chat interface on our app because it's so open-ended. Parang currently like yeah, I just want to point out na we don't have like a chat interface like other like AI applications. And we're thinking about like how to execute that well. And one parang idea we're floating around is maybe it can be like a litigation strategy chatbot where you're a lawyer, you have an argument in mind, you'll bounce it off with this AI who can kind of make your argument stronger because it understands Philippine laws really well. So that's one, and definitely document drafting and reviews. So we currently don't have that, but we are already thinking about, okay, what does a document drafting tool look like, or what does a document review tool look like? Um, so still like yeah, very much catering to like the lawyers, our initial sets of users. So like in general, the generative features, whether it's generating a document or like generating answers through a chatbot, that's what's exciting to us right now. Yeah.
Maybe one last thing I wanted to ask, no, before I quiz you for closing thoughts. Closing thoughts is
Sure.
obviously as the legal landscape changes, no, keeping data up to date is really important, and you mentioned that on getting more data. So currently, does the system operate on a closed database that's not connected to the rest of the internet, or is it in a way polling existing data or updating as you go along?
Um, it's not connected to the internet. So if you let me clarify that. So if you search on our, if you do a query on our app, it's gonna get from our database of information. So it's not like searching, like, much like an internet search on ChatGPT. It's not trying to look for data online. It's in our database. Now, we are working on, because we do get the information uh, from the official sources, like for example, Supreme Court. So right now, that's a manual process or semi-manual process of downloading the information from the Supreme Court. But obviously, it's better for us to automate that, and so that's part of what we're doing, also setting up those pipelines.
Okay. Sige. So, well, we're at the hour. Bilis, no?
Billets, billets.
Yeah, so, well, first I want to thank you, Gio, for sparing the time, introducing us to Anycase, and certainly excited to see what lies ahead of you. Maybe some closing thoughts for our audience, and something to look forward to. Certainly we need another a follow-up episode, especially when
Yeah,
things start, and I'm so sure things will start heating up in your sector very quickly, if not already.
yeah. Sure. Yeah, thanks, Doc. So yeah, I'll address the audience. So thanks everyone for listening if you made it to the end. If you're interested in if you're in the legal industry or you're curious about what we just talked about, you can check out Anycase at anycase.ai. It's free to use. There's definitely a free aspect of it that you can use and try out. So, you're not gonna be greeted by like a paid service na will gate everything. Um, I Doc, very much into AI. So I would like just, if you're curious, if you want to talk about AI, because this is a new space, like feel free to reach out to me, Gio at anycase.ai for anything. If you're working on AI in another industry or you want to learn more about any case, I'm very happy to share what we've learned so far then about the space and what the potentials are. Um, Yeah, that's it. If my last ask from the audience is if you know a lawyer or a legal researcher or a law student, like yeah, definitely tell them about Anycase AI. We have a good track record of people recommending us and the receiver of the recommendation being happy that they learned about Anycase. So yeah, that's my ask from the viewers.
Sige, we'll have all of those links and emails in the description. Thanks a lot, Gio, and hope to have you again in another episode.
Yes, Doc, let's do this again. This is fun. Thank you.